Captain Jake Morrison stood in the control room of the Aurora station, staring at the screens in front of him. The coffee in his hand had gone cold an hour ago, but he barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the 12 ships that had just appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. They were not human ships. "Captain, they're sending another message," Lieutenant Lisa Grant said from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. "Same as before. They want to talk." Jake set down his coffee cup. "Play it again." A voice filled the room. It sounded strange, like someone speaking through water, but the translation software made the words clear enough. "We are the Galactic Council. We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders." 12 ships, Jake muttered. "That's a lot of peace." Lisa looked over at him. "Sir." "What do we do?" Jake had been a military officer for 15 years. He had trained for wars, for disasters, for every kind of emergency Earth could throw at him. But nobody had trained him for this. First contact with alien life. It was supposed to be the greatest moment in human history. Instead, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. "Send a response," he said finally. "Tell them we're listening." The alien ships moved closer over the next 6 hours. They stopped just outside the orbit of Mars and waited. Earth's governments scrambled to decide who should speak for humanity. The United Nations argued for 3 days straight. Finally, they made their choice. Dr. Paul Chen was a scientist who had spent his whole life studying the possibility of alien life. He had written 20 books on the subject. He had given hundreds of lectures. Now, at 62 years old, he was going to meet the real thing. Commander Karen Blake was different. She was 45, a decorated military officer who had served in 3 different conflicts. She did not care much about theories or possibilities. She cared about keeping people safe. They met for the first time in a conference room in Geneva. "So you're the scientist," Karen said, shaking his hand. "And you're the soldier," Paul replied. "We make an interesting team." "Let's hope that's enough." 2 days later, they were on a shuttle heading toward the alien fleet. Jake Morrison had wanted to go with them, but his orders were clear. Stay at the station. Guard Earth. Watch everything. The alien ship that received them was massive. It was 3 times the size of any human vessel ever built. The walls inside glowed with a soft blue light. Strange symbols covered every surface. A creature waited for them in the docking bay. It stood on 4 legs and had skin that looked like polished stone. Its eyes were large and dark, and when it spoke, the sound came from somewhere in its chest. "I am Ambassador Krell," it said. "Welcome to the Council fleet." Paul stepped forward. "Thank you for receiving us. I'm Dr. Paul Chen. This is Commander Karen Blake. We represent Earth." Krell's head tilted to one side. "Yes, Earth. We have been watching your world for some time now. Your quantum signatures are most unusual." "Quantum signatures?" Paul asked. "All worlds produce them. They tell us about the life that grows there. Your world's signatures are different from any we have seen before." Karen's hand rested near her sidearm, though she knew it would be useless here. "Different how?" "We will explain when we reach Sanctum Prime. The Council wishes to meet you in person." The journey took 2 weeks. The alien ship moved faster than anything humans had ever built. Paul spent his time trying to learn everything he could. He asked questions constantly. Krell answered some of them, but avoided others. Karen spent her time watching. She noticed how the other aliens on the ship acted around them. Some stared openly. Others turned away quickly when she made eye contact. In the dining areas, conversations stopped when she and Paul entered. "They're afraid of us," she told Paul one evening. "That doesn't make sense. They have ships that make ours look like toys. Why would they fear us?" "I don't know, but I've seen that look before. On soldiers who know something bad is coming." On Earth, the world had gone crazy with the news. Every channel showed the same images over and over. Alien ships, first contact, humanity's place in the galaxy. People celebrated in some cities and rioted in others. Churches argued about what it meant. Scientists published new theories every hour. Jake Morrison watched it all from his station high above the planet. Lisa Grant worked double shifts, trying to monitor all the communication between Earth and the alien fleet. The messages were coded, but patterns emerged. "They're agitated about something," Lisa said during one of their brief meetings. "The aliens, I mean. Their communication traffic has increased by 300% since they picked up our people." "Any idea what they're talking about?" "No, sir, but whatever it is, it's big." At Sanctum Prime, Paul and Karen saw the Galactic Council for the first time. The chamber was enormous, with seats for hundreds of different species. Each one looked different from the next. Some had fur, others had scales. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 6. Some breathed oxygen, others floated in tanks of liquid. But they all stared at the 2 humans with the same expression, fear mixed with wonder. High Chancellor Theron stood at the center of the chamber. He was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the massive space. "Humans of Earth," he said, "you stand before the Galactic Council, the governing body of 47 civilized species across this galaxy. We have existed for over 1 million of your years. We have seen countless species rise and fall. We have mapped the stars and unlocked the secrets of creation itself." He paused, and the chamber fell silent. "But never, in all that time, have we encountered anything like you." Paul felt his heart racing. "What do you mean?" "You will undergo testing," Theron said. "Genetic analysis. We must confirm what our initial scans suggest. If our findings are correct, then everything we know about life in this galaxy is wrong." "You're scaring me," Karen said bluntly. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Several of them made gestures that the translation software could not interpret. Theron's eyes fixed on Karen. "Fear is appropriate, Commander Blake. For all of us. The truth about your species may destroy everything we have built. It may end civilizations. It may shatter faith itself." "What truth?" Paul demanded. "That is what we intend to discover. Come, the testing begins now." The testing room was white and cold. Paul Chen sat in a chair that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Machines surrounded him, their purposes unknown. A scientist named Vrax stood nearby, holding a device that hummed softly. "This will not hurt," Vrax said. His species had 3 eyes and skin covered in tiny scales. "We only need a sample of your genetic material." "I've given blood before," Paul said, trying to sound calm. "This is more thorough than blood. We will map every strand of your DNA, every marker, every sequence." The device touched Paul's arm. He felt a slight tingle, then nothing. Vrax stepped back and studied the readings on his screen. His 3 eyes widened. All the color drained from his scales. "What's wrong?" Paul asked. Vrax did not answer. He ran the scan again, then a 3rd time. His hands began to shake. "I need to speak with the High Chancellor," Vrax said, his voice barely a whisper. "Right now." In another room, Karen Blake underwent the same test. The scientist testing her dropped his equipment when he saw the results. He ran from the room without saying a word. "That's not a good sign," Karen muttered to herself. Within an hour, both humans were brought to a secure chamber deep inside the council headquarters. High Chancellor Theron was there, along with 20 other important-looking aliens. They all stared at displays showing complex genetic data. "Explain it to us in simple terms," Karen demanded. "What did you find?" Theron looked at them for a long moment. "Do you know the story of the architects?" "No," Paul said. The architects were the first intelligent species in this galaxy. They existed billions of years before any of us. They were masters of genetic engineering. Before they disappeared, they seeded 47 worlds with life. They designed the DNA of every creature that would evolve on those worlds. They created the foundation for all of us. Paul felt his stomach drop. All of you? Every sentient species in this galaxy shares genetic markers from the architects. We are all their children, created by their design. Some species evolved on what we call alpha worlds, where the architect influence was subtle. Others came from omega worlds, where the engineering was obvious, but we all carry their mark. Our entire society is built on this fact, another alien added. She had feathers instead of hair and spoke with a musical voice. Our laws, our religions, our understanding of our place in the universe, it all comes from knowing we are the designed children of the architects. Karen crossed her arms. Okay. So what does this have to do with us? Theron's voice was quiet. You have no architect markers. None. Your DNA shows a completely independent evolutionary path. You evolved naturally, without any outside design or engineering. The room fell silent. Paul processed what he was hearing. We're natural? You are the first naturally evolved sentient species we have ever encountered. In over 1 million years of galactic exploration, we have never found anything like you. That's why you're afraid of us, Karen said. Yes. Because if you are natural, if you evolved without the architect's guidance, then our entire understanding of the universe is wrong. We thought natural evolution could not produce intelligence. We thought the architects were necessary, but you prove otherwise. One of the other aliens stood up suddenly. This information must be contained. If it spreads, it will cause chaos. Too late, Vrax said, entering the chamber. The data leaked to the Zenthari delegation 20 minutes ago. They're already transmitting it to their home world. Theron closed his eyes. Then it has begun. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Phillips received the data through secure channels. She was one of the planet's leading geneticists, and Earth Command wanted her to verify the findings. She spent 6 hours analyzing the results. Her conclusion matched the aliens' findings exactly. Humanity had evolved naturally. There were no artificial markers, no signs of genetic engineering, no traces of outside influence. She sent her report to the government and then sat alone in her lab. The implications were staggering. Humanity was unique in a galaxy full of designed life. They were the only species who had earned their intelligence through millions of years of natural selection. The news hit the galactic network within hours. On Zenthara Prime, the capital world of the Zenthari Empire, riots broke out in the streets. The Zenthari had built their entire culture on being an alpha world species, superior because of their minimal architect influence. Learning that they were still artificial creations while humans were natural sent their society into chaos. On Kellis 9, religious leaders called for days of prayer and reflection. Their faith taught that the architects were divine beings, and all sentient life was sacred because it came from the architect's design. If humans existed outside that design, what did it mean? On Thrace, a world of traders and merchants, the stock markets crashed. Investment in genetic purity certificates became worthless overnight. Ambassador Nicole Foster, Earth's representative to the outer colonies, watched the galactic news feeds with growing concern. She was stationed on Luna Base when the reports started coming in. Species across the galaxy were having existential crises. This is spiraling out of control, she told her staff. We need to do something. Like what? Her assistant asked. We didn't ask to be natural. We didn't ask to break their society. Nicole thought for a moment. We need to talk to the moderates on the council, the ones who aren't panicking. We need to propose a new framework before this turns violent. Back on Sanctum Prime, Paul and Karen found themselves in protective custody. The council claimed it was for their safety, but it felt like prison. Guards stood outside their doors. They were not allowed to leave their quarters without permission. "They're afraid of us," Karen said during one of Paul's visits to her room. "Not just what we represent. They're actually afraid of us personally." "Can you blame them? We just destroyed their entire worldview." Karen walked to the window and looked out at the alien city below. "I've been thinking about what Theron said, about natural evolution being impossible without the architects. Why would they think that? Maybe because they've never seen it succeed. Or maybe because they were designed not to believe it could succeed." Paul looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" "Think about it. If you're going to engineer a species, you want them stable, predictable. You don't want them questioning their origins or trying to change themselves. What if the architects built that into their DNA? What if they made all these species psychologically dependent on the idea of being designed? That's a disturbing thought. It would explain why they're all freaking out so badly. It's not just their society collapsing. It might be fighting against their actual genetic programming." On the Aurora station, Jake Morrison received new orders. Earth was preparing for the worst. Defense satellites were being armed. The military was going to high alert. If the aliens decided humanity was too dangerous to exist, Earth needed to be ready. Lisa Grant brought him the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, we're detecting military movement in 3 sectors. The Xanthari Empire has mobilized its fleet. The Kellis theocracy is doing the same." "Are they coming for us?" "We don't know yet, but they're preparing for something." Jake studied the star maps. "We're not ready for a war with species that have been traveling the stars for thousands of years." "No, sir, we're not." Meanwhile, on a forgotten world at the edge of known space, Dr. Martin Lee and Professor Beth Carter were exploring ancient ruins. They were xenoarchaeologists, scientists who studied the remains of extinct civilizations. They had been working on this dig site for 3 months when the news about humanity broke. Martin was reading the latest reports when Beth called out to him. "Martin, you need to see this." He rushed to where she was working. She had uncovered a chamber filled with data storage devices. They were architect technology, older than anything the galaxy had seen in 1,000,000 years. "Can we access them?" Martin asked. "I think so. But Martin, look at the symbols on the door." He looked. The symbols showed pictures of different species. Xanthari, Kellis, Thrace, and dozens of others. All the known races of the galaxy. And in the center there was a symbol that looked like a tree with many branches. "The evolutionary tree," Beth whispered. "This is an architect database about the species they created. We need to access this right now." Back on Sanctum Prime, High Chancellor Theron made an announcement to the gathered council. "The data has been verified. Humans are natural. This is not an error. This is not a hoax. This is reality." The chamber erupted in shouts and arguments. Some demanded humanity be quarantined. Others wanted them destroyed. A few suggested worshiping them as holy beings. Paul and Karen stood before them all, watching their universe tear itself apart. "We didn't mean for this to happen," Paul said quietly to Karen. "I know, but it's happening anyway." Ambassador Krell approached them after the session ended. "You must leave Sanctum Prime. It is not safe for you here anymore." "Where can we go?" Karen asked. "Earth. Return to your homeworld. The Council will continue to debate, but you should not be here when they make their decision." The Xanthari Empire struck first. Colonel Ryan Murphy was commanding Earth's defense grid when the attack came. 3 Xanthari warships appeared near the human colony on Titan. They did not send warnings. They did not make demands. They simply opened fire. "All stations, battle alert!" Ryan shouted into his communicator. "This is not a drill. We are under attack." The colony's shields held for 90 seconds. Then they failed. The Xanthari weapons were designed by the architects themselves, refined over thousands of years. Human technology was barely 200 years old. But Ryan had one advantage. The Zenthari followed exact tactical patterns. Their military doctrine was precise, calculated, perfect. Ryan had studied their attack simulations for weeks. He knew what they would do before they did it. Helm, hard to port, now. The defense platform rotated just as the Zenthari fired their main cannons. The shots missed by 30 meters. Ryan's counterattack caught them by surprise. 2 of the 3 ships took critical damage. The 3rd ship retreated. "Get rescue teams to the colony," Ryan ordered, "and someone get me a damage report." 73 people died in the attack. It was the first human casualties of what would become a much larger war. On Earth, President Helen Crawford convened an emergency meeting. Military advisors filled the Situation Room. Ambassador Nicole Foster joined via secure channel from Luna Base. "They're testing us," Nicole said, her face grim on the screen. "The Zenthari want to know if we'll fight back." "We have to," General Chris Anderson said. He was the head of Earth's combined military forces. "If we show weakness now, every species in the galaxy will think they can attack us." "But we can't win a war against them," another advisor argued. "They have thousands of ships. We have dozens." Helen Crawford listened to them all, then made her decision. "We defend ourselves. We don't attack first, but we will protect our people. Make that clear to the galaxy." The message went out within hours. Earth would not be pushed around. The Zenthari Empire responded by declaring humans an abomination. Their high command issued a statement that spread across the galactic network. "Natural evolution is chaos. It is dangerous. It threatens the order of civilized society. Humanity must be contained before their chaotic nature infects the rest of the galaxy." But the Zenthari were not the only ones reacting to humanity's existence. On Kellis 9, a new religious movement emerged. They called themselves the Naturalist Cult. They believed that the architect's genetic engineering had corrupted all species, and only by removing these modifications could they achieve true spiritual purity. The cult's leader, a Kellis priest named Varn, gave sermons that were watched by billions. "We have lived as puppets, dancing on strings woven into our very cells. The humans show us that natural life is possible. We must purge ourselves of the architect's corruption." Thousands of cult members underwent dangerous procedures to remove their architect genetic markers. Most of the procedures failed. Many people died. But the movement kept growing. Dr. Sarah Phillips watched the cult's activities with horror from her lab on Earth. She sent a message to the cult's leaders begging them to stop. "You don't understand genetics," her message said. "You can't just remove parts of your DNA without consequences. The architect modifications are woven into everything you are. Removing them will kill you." They did not listen. Meanwhile, Dr. Paul Chen and Commander Karen Blake had returned to Earth. They were debriefed for 3 days straight. Every agency wanted to know everything they had seen and heard. "The galaxy is falling apart," Paul told the intelligence officers. "Species that have coexisted peacefully for thousands of years are now at each other's throats, all because of us." "We didn't do anything wrong," Karen added. "We just exist." "That's enough," one of the officers said. "Your existence challenges everything they believe." After the debriefings, Paul went home to his apartment in Boston. He had not been there in 2 months. Everything looked the same, but he felt completely different. He had left Earth as a scientist excited to meet aliens. He returned as the man who accidentally destroyed galactic civilization. His phone rang constantly. News agencies wanted interviews. Scientists wanted data. People he had not spoken to in years suddenly wanted to talk. He ignored them all. Karen had a different reaction. She requested immediate reassignment to active duty. Within a week, she was working with General Chris Anderson, helping plan Earth's defense strategy. "The aliens fight in patterns," she explained during a strategy meeting. "They've been at peace for so long that their military tactics are like textbook exercises. They do the same things over and over." And we don't, Anderson said. Exactly. Human military history is full of chaos and innovation. We adapt. We improvise. That confuses them. Major Diane Foster, Anderson's tactical officer, looked at the star maps. So we use unconventional tactics. Hit and run. Asymmetric warfare. Make them react to us instead of following their plans. It might work, Karen agreed. At least long enough for cooler heads to prevail. But cooler heads were in short supply. Senator Andrew Walsh spent his days trying to negotiate with the fractured Galactic Council. Half the species had stopped attending sessions. The other half could not agree on anything. Every meeting ended in arguments. We need to find common ground, Andrew pleaded during one session. Fighting each other helps no one. Common ground? A Zenthari delegate shouted. You destroyed our understanding of the universe. There is no common ground with chaos. A Kellis delegate stood up. The humans have shown us the truth. We should thank them, not fight them. Thank them? A Thrace representative said. My world's economy has collapsed. Our entire financial system was based on genetic purity ratings. Those ratings are meaningless now. The arguments continued for hours. Andrew left the session exhausted and frustrated. That night, he received a message from Dr. Martin Lee. The xenoarchaeologist had been silent for weeks while working at the architect ruins. Now he had something to share. Senator Walsh, I've discovered something you need to see. Can you come to these coordinates? Andrew made the journey in secret. When he arrived at the dig site, Martin and Beth Carter were waiting for him. They led him into the underground chamber. We've accessed the architect database, Martin said, and what we found changes everything. He activated the ancient display. Images filled the air, showing DNA sequences and complex calculations. Andrew did not understand most of it, but Martin explained. The architects didn't just engineer the genetic code of other species. They engineered their psychology, too. They built in limitations, constraints on aggression, on independent thought, on the ability to question authority. Why would they do that? Andrew asked. Beth answered, because they wanted stable civilizations. They were running from something they called natural chaos. They seeded this galaxy with designed species that would never face the same dangers they did. What dangers? Martin pulled up another set of files. Their home galaxy was destroyed by war, not just any war. A war between naturally evolved species with no limits on their creativity or aggression. The architects barely escaped. They came here and created a galaxy full of peaceful, stable, predictable civilizations. They were afraid of natural evolution, Andrew said slowly, terrified of it. And they made sure every species they created would be terrified of it too. It's programmed into their DNA. Andrew sat down heavily. So when the galaxy learned about humanity, they were not just upset, they were reacting to genetic programming that's billions of years old. Exactly. The architects made them afraid of us before we even existed. Can this programming be removed? Theoretically, yes, but it would require advanced genetic therapy, and it would have to be voluntary. You can't force an entire civilization to change their DNA. Andrew thought about the implications. We need to share this information. The galaxy needs to know why they're reacting this way. It might not help, Beth warned. Understanding why you're afraid doesn't always make the fear go away. Maybe not, but it's a start. Back on Earth, the attacks continued. The Purity Alliance, a coalition of species who rejected their artificial origins, launched raids on human outposts. They did not want to conquer humanity. They wanted to erase it. Natural evolution is an affront to order, their manifesto declared. It must be eliminated. Colonel Ryan Murphy found himself fighting almost every day. His defense forces stopped most of the attacks, but not all of them. More colonies were hit. More people died. We need reinforcements, he told command. "We can't cover everything with what we have." "Reinforcements are coming," they told him, "but it takes time to build ships." Meanwhile, some alien species started helping humanity. The Thrace, despite their economic troubles, sent supplies. A species called the Velen offered medical assistance. Even a few Kellis worlds defied their theocracy and provided shelter for human refugees. Ambassador Nicole Foster worked with these allies, building a coalition of moderates. She called it the Diversity Accord. The name was simple, but the message was clear. Different forms of life could coexist. "We're not asking anyone to change," Nicole explained in a broadcast to the galaxy. "We're not saying the architects were wrong to create you. We're just saying that natural and designed life can both exist. There's room in the galaxy for everyone." The broadcast reached billions of viewers. Some dismissed it, others listened. And in the naturalist cult, Varn heard the message and laughed. Room for everyone? There is only room for the pure, for the natural. The architect's creations must be cleansed. The war exploded across 3 sectors at once. The Purity Alliance attacked with everything they had. 12 species united under one goal: destroy humanity before its chaotic nature spread. Their fleets numbered in the thousands. They had weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand nuclear fire. General Chris Anderson stood in Earth's war room, looking at the tactical displays. Red markers showed enemy positions. Blue markers showed human and allied forces. There was a lot more red than blue. "They're hitting us from 4 different angles," Major Diane Foster reported. "Fleet groups at Mars, Europa, Titan, and the Outer Belt." "Split our forces," Anderson ordered. "Hit the weakest group first, then move to the next." "Sir, our analysts say we should consolidate. Defend one position strongly rather than spreading thin." "Our analysts think like them," Anderson said, pointing at the enemy markers. "Predictable, defensive. But we're going to do what they don't expect. We're going to attack." The human fleet moved out within the hour. 37 ships, less than a tenth of what the Alliance had. They targeted the fleet at Europa, the smallest of the 4 groups. The Alliance commanders expected the humans to defend Earth. They had calculated the most logical response based on 1,000 years of military theory. They did not expect the humans to charge straight at them. The battle lasted 42 minutes. The human ships moved in patterns that made no sense to the Alliance tacticians. They broke formation, reformed, scattered, and regrouped. Their weapons fire seemed random, but always hit vital systems. By the time the Alliance commanders figured out what was happening, their Europa fleet was destroyed. The human ships were already moving to their next target. "How are they doing this?" an Alliance admiral demanded. "Their tactics violate every principle of coordinated warfare." "They're not coordinated," his tactical officer explained. "Each ship is making independent decisions. There's no pattern because there's no central plan." "That's madness. That's humanity." Colonel Ryan Murphy commanded the Aurora station during the Mars battle. The Alliance fleet there was larger and more prepared. They had studied the Europa engagement and thought they understood human tactics now. They were wrong. Ryan did not use the same tactics twice. He coordinated with the other human commanders through rapid, chaotic communication. They shared ideas in real time, adapted to each moment, changed plans mid-battle. "Sir, Alliance fleet is moving to intercept," Lieutenant Lisa Grant reported. "Good. Let them think they know what we're doing. Helm, full burn toward that asteroid cluster. That's going to put us in range of their heavy guns." "That's the idea." The Aurora raced toward the asteroids with the Alliance ships in pursuit. At the last second, Ryan triggered pre-planted charges on the asteroids. The explosions sent rock fragments flying in all directions. The Alliance ships, following their careful tactical protocols, could not react fast enough. 3 of them took catastrophic damage. The human ships slipped through the debris field and hit the confused Alliance forces from behind. On Earth, Dr. Paul Chen watched the battle reports with a sick feeling in his stomach. People were dying because of him, because of what he represented. The knowledge felt like a weight crushing his chest. Dr. Sarah Phillips found him in his apartment, staring at the news feeds. "You can't blame yourself," she said. "Why not? If I had not gone to meet them, if I had refused the testing, maybe none of this would be happening." They would have found out eventually. You can't hide what we are. Paul turned away from the screens. The naturalist cult killed 200 people yesterday. They bombed a hospital on Kellis 9. All because they think removing their architect genes will make them pure like us. I know. I've been trying to stop them. It's not working. Sarah sat down next to him. No, it's not. They're too far gone. Varn has convinced them that death is better than living as the architect's creations. What a mess we've made. Meanwhile, Senator Andrew Walsh was traveling to the architect ruins with High Chancellor Theron. The revelation about the psychological programming had reached the Galactic Council, and Theron wanted to see the evidence himself. Dr. Martin Lee greeted them at the entrance to the underground chamber. Professor Beth Carter had returned to her university, but she had left detailed notes on everything they had discovered. "Show me," Theron said simply. Martin activated the database. The architect files appeared in the air, showing genetic sequences and programming instructions. Theron studied them for hours, using his own translation tools to verify the information. Finally, he spoke. "It's true. They limited us. They made us afraid of natural evolution. They built it into our very beings." "Does knowing this change anything?" Andrew asked. "I don't know. How do you fight against your own genetics? The same way humans have been doing for thousands of years. You choose to be different." Theron looked at him with ancient eyes. "Your species has always had that luxury. You were never designed. You were never given limits. You don't understand what it's like to feel programming fighting against your own thoughts." "Then teach me. Help me understand. Every time I think about accepting humanity's existence, something inside me screams that it's wrong. That natural evolution is dangerous. That chaos must be controlled. I know these thoughts are not entirely my own. They were planted by beings who died 1 billion years ago. But knowing that does not make them go away." Martin spoke up. "The database contains instructions for removing the programming, genetic therapy protocols. The architects included them, maybe as a failsafe, maybe because they thought someday their creations might be ready to be free. How long would the treatment take? Months, maybe years, and it would have to be voluntary. Forcing it would be no better than what the architects did." Theron was quiet for a long time. "This information must be shared with the entire galaxy. Everyone deserves to know they can choose to be free of the programming." "Even if it causes more chaos?" Andrew asked. "Especially then. We cannot build a real peace on a foundation of genetic manipulation. Not anymore." Back in the war, the tide was turning. The Purity Alliance had more ships, more weapons, more resources, but humanity kept winning battles through sheer unpredictability. Alliance commanders grew frustrated. Their perfect tactics were useless against an enemy that had no tactics at all. "They fight like they're insane," one Alliance admiral complained. "No," his second-in-command corrected. "They fight like they're free." The naturalist cult launched their most devastating attack. They seized control of a Kellis military facility and stole 3 warships. Varn himself led the attack on what they called the corruption centers, the genetic therapy hospitals that provided architect-based treatments. Thousands died in the bombings. Whole cities on Kellis 9 burned. Ambassador Nicole Foster tried to negotiate with Varn, broadcasting a direct appeal. "You're killing innocent people. This isn't purity. This is murder." Varn's response was chilling. There are no innocents. Everyone who carries the architect's taint must be cleansed. Better to die pure than live as an abomination. We never said you were abominations. We never asked you to change. You didn't have to. Your existence is the question. Death to the impure is the answer. The cult's influence spread to other worlds. Copycat attacks happened on Zenthera Prime and Thrace. Genetic research facilities were burned. Scientists were killed. Anyone who defended architect modifications became a target. Dr. Sarah Phillips received death threats daily. Security teams guarded her apartment and her lab. She continued her work anyway, developing a treatment that could help cult members survive the genetic modifications they were inflicting on themselves. If they're going to remove their architect genes, at least let me help them do it safely, she told her colleagues. They won't listen to you. I have to try. On the battlefield, General Chris Anderson made a bold decision. Instead of just defending, he would take the fight to the Alliance. Human ships started hitting Alliance supply lines, command centers, and staging areas. Major Diane Foster coordinated the attacks. "Strike here, here, and here," she said, marking targets on the tactical map. "Make them defend their own territory instead of attacking ours." It worked. The Alliance had to pull ships back from the front lines to protect their infrastructure. The pressure on Earth and her colonies eased, but the cost was high. Human casualties mounted. Ships were lost. Pilots died. Every victory came with a price. Lieutenant Commander Greg Thompson was leading a patrol mission when his ship encountered a naturalist cult vessel. The cult ship was damaged, leaking atmosphere. Dozens of beings were dying inside. "Should we help them?" his co-pilot asked. Greg thought about all the people the cult had killed, all the hospitals they had bombed, all the innocents they had murdered. It would be easy to leave them to die. "Get a tractor beam on them," he ordered. "Bring them aboard." "Sir? We're not like them. We don't leave people to die just because we disagree with them." They rescued 47 cult members from the damaged ship. Most of them were suffering from failed genetic modifications. Their bodies were rejecting the changes they had made to themselves. Greg's medical team tried to help, but 3 of the cult members died anyway. The survivors looked at their human rescuers with confusion and anger. "Why did you save us?" one of them asked. "We're your enemies." "Because you're people," Greg said simply. "And people deserve a chance to live, even if they make bad choices." The rescued cult members were handed over to Kellis authorities. Greg never learned what happened to them after that, but he hoped maybe, just maybe, one of them would rethink their beliefs. High Chancellor Theron made his announcement to the galaxy from the Architect ruins. He stood before the cameras with the database active behind him, showing the proof of the Architect's programming. "We have been living a lie," he said, "not because the Architects were evil, but because they were afraid. They programmed us to fear natural evolution, to crave order, to reject chaos. This programming has served us well for millions of years. But now, we have a choice." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The Architects left us the means to remove their programming, genetic therapy protocols that can free us from their influence. This treatment is not mandatory. It is not even recommended for everyone, but it is available. Each species, each individual, can choose whether to remain as the Architects designed them or to BICO. The war did not end all at once. It wound down slowly, like a storm losing strength. The Purity Alliance fractured first. 3 of their member species withdrew after Theron's revelation about the Architects' programming. They realized they were fighting against programming they never chose to have. The remaining Alliance members kept fighting, but their heart was no longer in it. General Chris Anderson watched the intelligence reports and saw the change. "They're pulling back," he told Major Diane Foster. "Not retreating exactly, but they're not pushing as hard." "Do we keep hitting them?" "No. Let them go. We've made our point." The final major battle happened near Titan. Colonel Ryan Murphy's defense fleet faced off against the last committed Alliance forces. The fighting was brutal, but shorter than previous engagements. When the Alliance ships withdrew, Ryan did not pursue them. "Let them leave," he told Lieutenant Lisa Grant. "This needs to end." The naturalist cult was a different problem. They did not care about politics or peace negotiations. They cared only about purity, and they would rather die than compromise. Varn led a final desperate attack on Earth itself. 3 cult warships broke through the defense perimeter and made it to the upper atmosphere. Their target was Dr. Sarah Phillips's research facility. "All civilians evacuate," Ryan ordered. "Defense stations, target those ships." But before the defense weapons could fire, something unexpected happened. A fleet of Kellis military ships appeared and intercepted the cult vessels. The Kellis had finally had enough of Varn's madness. The battle was brief and devastating. 2 cult ships were destroyed. The third, Varn's flagship, was disabled. Kellis boarding teams captured him and his remaining followers. Sarah watched from her lab as the cult ships burned in the sky above. She felt no satisfaction, only sadness for the waste of it all. Varn was put on trial by his own people. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy. He showed no remorse. "I did what was necessary," he said. "The architect's corruption must be purged." "You killed thousands of innocent people," the judge said. "There are no innocents, only the pure and the corrupted." He was sentenced to life imprisonment. His followers were given psychiatric treatment and genetic therapy to help them survive the modifications they had inflicted on themselves. Some accepted the help. Others refused and died from their own stubbornness. With the cult's leadership gone, the movement collapsed. A few scattered groups still believed in Varn's teachings, but they no longer had the resources or support to be a major threat. Ambassador Nicole Foster called for a gathering at a neutral location. Not the old council chambers on Sanctum Prime, but a new place. A space station built specifically for this purpose, funded by donations from 20 different species. They called it Unity Station. Representatives from 89 species attended, almost twice as many as the old council had served. Species that had hidden their existence for fear of judgment now came forward openly. "We are all here because of one simple truth," Nicole began. "Natural and designed life both exist. Both have value. Both deserve a place in this galaxy." High Chancellor Theron stood beside her. He had undergone the genetic therapy to remove the architect's programming. The process had been painful and took 3 months, but he said it was worth it. "I can think clearly now," he told the assembly. "For the first time in my life, my thoughts are entirely my own. The fear of natural evolution is gone. The compulsion toward order has faded. I am free to choose what I believe." "And what do you believe?" someone asked. "That we wasted 1,000,000 years living in a cage we did not know existed. That humanity's arrival was not a curse but a gift. They showed us the bars. Now we can decide whether to stay inside or step out." Dr. Paul Chen attended the gathering as Earth's scientific representative. He had aged in the past year. The weight of the war had marked him. But he spoke with quiet conviction. "We never wanted to destroy your society. We just wanted to understand the universe. To meet other intelligent life. We got more than we bargained for." A Xanthari delegate stood up. "Your existence challenges everything we built our civilization on. How do we move forward from that?" "Together," Paul said. "You learn from us. We learn from you. Natural and designed life each have strengths and weaknesses. Imagine what we could accomplish if we combined them." The Diversity Accord was signed by 62 species on the first day. Over the following weeks, 20 more added their signatures. It was not universal. Some species refused to join, clinging to the old ways, but it was a start. The Accord established new principles for galactic society. Genetic origin did not determine status. All sentient beings had equal rights. Species could choose to keep their architect modifications or remove them. Both choices were valid. Lieutenant Commander Greg Thompson was given command of the first joint human-alien exploration vessel. His crew included members from 12 different species. Their mission was to explore uncharted regions and search for other naturally evolved civilizations. "Do you think we'll find any?" his Thrace navigator asked. "The galaxy's a big place. If we exist, others probably do too. And if we find them? We'll be ready this time. We know what to expect." On Earth, Dr. Sarah Phillips opened the Institute for Genetic Freedom. It was a research center and educational facility where any species could learn about their genetic heritage. The Institute offered the therapy to remove architect programming, but also supported those who chose to keep their modifications. "There's no right choice," Sarah told students in her first lecture, "only the choice that's right for you." The galaxy did not unite overnight. Old prejudices remained. Some species still feared natural evolution. Others looked down on designed life as artificial. But slowly, connections formed. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges happened. Mixed species crews became common on exploration ships. Captain Jake Morrison, now an admiral, commanded the Joint Defense Forces. Human and alien ships trained together, learning from each other's strengths. The chaotic human tactics combined with alien precision created something new and powerful. "We're stronger together," Jake told his officers. "Humans bring innovation and adaptability. Our allies bring experience and stability. Neither is better. Both are necessary." President Helen Crawford stood before the United Nations and the galactic representatives to give her annual address. 5 years ago, we learned we were not alone in the universe. We also learned we were unique. That uniqueness nearly destroyed us and the galaxy. But we survived. We adapted. We grew. Today, humanity stands not as conquerors or victims, but as partners. We share the stars with beings designed by ancient masters and those who evolved naturally. We have learned that diversity is not a weakness to overcome, but a strength to embrace. High Chancellor Theron, now retired from politics, spent his time teaching. He traveled to different worlds, sharing his experience with the genetic therapy and encouraging others to make informed choices about their own bodies. "I do not regret being designed by the architects," he said in one lecture. "They gave me life, intelligence, and purpose. But I also do not regret removing their programming. Now I can appreciate what they gave me while also being free to choose my own path." Dr. Martin Lee and Professor Beth Carter continued exploring architect ruins. They found evidence of dozens of galaxies the architects had visited. In each one, they had seeded designed species and moved on. Earth was not unique in being natural. It was unique in being discovered. "There might be thousands of naturally evolved species out there," Martin told Beth as they cataloged another site. "Maybe millions. The architects just never found them. Or they avoided them. Remember, they were running from natural chaos. They might have deliberately chosen galaxies where they would not encounter it. Either way, we're not alone in being alone." The naturalist cult never fully died out. Small groups still existed on the fringes of society, still believing that designed life was corrupted. But without Varn's leadership and without the psychological programming pushing species toward extremes, the cult became just another fringe movement. Loud but not dangerous. Ambassador Nicole Foster, now serving as the director of Unity Station, looked out at the diverse assembly of species working together. Humans, Zenthari, Kellis, Thrace, Velon, and dozens of others. All different. All equal. "It's not perfect," she told her assistant. "We still have problems, prejudice, misunderstandings, cultural conflicts. But it's better than war. Much better." Commander Karen Blake retired from active service and became a teacher at Earth's military academy. She taught officers from a dozen species about human tactical thinking, Her classes were always full. "Why do humans fight so strangely?" a student asked her one day. "Because we learned to fight each other for thousands of years before we ever met you. Human history is full of war, innovation, and adaptation. We got good at it because we had to. Now, we're teaching you what we learned. Is that good? Teaching others to be chaotic? No. We're teaching you to be flexible. There's a difference." General Chris Anderson worked with alien military leaders to create new defense protocols. They combined human unpredictability with alien precision. The result was a defense force that could handle any threat. "The next time someone attacks us, they'll face the best of both worlds," Chris told his staff. "They won't know what hit them." 10 years after first contact, Lieutenant Commander Greg Thompson's ship detected a signal from deep space. It was coming from another galaxy, and the patterns suggested intelligence. Greg assembled his crew. "This could be what we've been looking for. Another naturally evolved species. Or another species designed by someone else," his science officer said. "Either way, we should make contact." "What if they're hostile?" "Then we deal with it. That's what we do." The message went back to Unity Station. Nicole Foster convened an emergency session. The assembly debated for 2 days about whether to respond to the signal. Finally, they voted. 67 species in favor, 11 against, 8 abstentions. Humanity would lead the first contact mission, but they would not go alone. A fleet of ships from 20 different species would accompany them. Natural and designed life working together to meet the unknown. Dr. Paul Chen, now 72 years old, volunteered to be part of the delegation. "I helped start this mess 10 years ago. Might as well see where it leads." Commander Karen Blake, pulled out of retirement, would command the military escort. "One more mission. Why not?" As the fleet prepared to leave, Ambassador Nicole Foster broadcast a message to the galaxy. 10 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves over a simple truth. We learned the hard way that truth can be painful, but necessary. We learned that differences can be strengths. We learned that designed and natural life can coexist. Now we're taking that lesson to another galaxy. We don't know what we'll find there. But whatever it is, we'll face it together. Not as separate species or competing philosophies, but as partners. The galaxy freaked out when aliens found humans. But we survived. We adapted. We became stronger. The truth shattered every world we knew. But from those broken pieces, we built something better. The fleet launched 3 months later. Humans and aliens, natural and designed, chaos and order, all heading into the unknown together. High Chancellor Theron stood on Unity Station and watched them go. The architects tried to build a perfect galaxy. They failed, but maybe perfection was never the goal. Maybe the goal was to learn, to grow, to become something new. He smiled, a gesture his species rarely made before removing their programming. I think they would be proud, not of their creation staying the same, but of us having the courage to change. The stars waited. The galaxy had changed forever, and somewhere in deep space, another species was about to learn what humanity had taught this one. That truth, no matter how shattering, was always better than comfortable lies. And that the most important question was never where you came from, but what you chose to become. The message from the other galaxy grew stronger. Soon, there would be answers. Soon, there would be new questions. And the cycle would begin again. But this time, the galaxy was ready. Me something new. This war must end. The Purity Alliance fights to destroy chaos. The Naturalist cult fights to destroy order. Both are wrong. Humanity has shown us that natural and designed life can coexist. Now we must choose whether to accept that truth or destroy ourselves fighting against it. The broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy. Reactions were mixed. Some praised Theron for his honesty. Others called him a traitor. The Alliance and the cult both condemned him. But slowly, gradually, a third faction emerged. Species and individuals who wanted peace, who were tired of fighting, who were willing to try coexistence. Ambassador Nicole Foster seized the moment and called for a new council meeting. This time, it would not be about hierarchy or genetic purity. It would be about building something new. The galaxy stood at a crossroads, war or peace, order or chaos, or maybe, just maybe, something in between. The cult's attacks grew more violent. They targeted genetic research facilities across a dozen worlds. They bombed hospitals that performed architect-based therapies. They killed anyone who defended the old ways. Dr. Sarah Phillips tried to counter their propaganda with facts and science. "You're dying for nothing," she pleaded in her own broadcasts. "Your genetic modifications are not corruption. They're part of who you are." But the cult members saw her as just another voice defending the architect's lies. The galaxy was burning, and humanity stood at the center of it all. Not because they wanted to, not because they had done anything wrong, simply because they existed, and their existence proved that everything the galaxy believed was built on a foundation that was less than complete, and the worst was yet to come. "What decision?" Krell looked at them with his dark eyes. "Whether your species deserves to exist." The trip back to Earth took another 2 weeks. During that time, the galaxy continued to fracture. 3 species withdrew from the Council completely. 5 more demanded emergency sessions. Religious wars broke out on 2 worlds. And deep in the architect ruins, Martin and Beth discovered the truth that would change everything once again. As guards led them from the chamber, Karen leaned close to Paul. "I don't like this." "Neither do I," Paul whispered back. "But I think we're about to learn why they're so afraid of us." Behind them, the council chamber erupted into heated arguments in a dozen different languages. The humans could not understand the words, but the tone was clear. Panic was spreading, and it was spreading fast. On the Aurora station, Jake Morrison received a coded message from Earth Command. It was short and direct. "Prepare for potential hostile action. The aliens are hiding something, and it involves our people." Jake looked out at the stars and wondered what Paul and Karen had walked into. Whatever it was, he had a feeling the galaxy was about to change forever. And not everyone was going to be happy about it. The testing would begin in 6 hours. By the time it finished, nothing would ever be the same again.